Strength in weakness. This idea stands in stark contrast to what the world so often tells us. From childhood, we are exposed to the celebration of the strong, the brave, the resilient. The people who never seem to falter in the face of adversity. The images we see and the stories we hear frequently showcase the triumph of the self-reliant, of those who dig deep within themselves and emerge victorious, standing tall and proud. But what if there's another story? A greater, deeper strength, a kind of power that's found in the very places we least expect, in our weakness, our brokenness, our surrender. There's a passage in the Bible, found in the book of 2 Corinthians 12:9, which carries a truth that echoes across the ages. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is perfected in weakness. Take a moment and let those words sink in. They are as startling now as they were when they were written to the ancient church so long ago. The Apostle Paul, once a fearsome persecutor and later a passionate follower of Christ, wrote these words not from a place of comfort, but from within his own hardship, his own confessions of weakness. You don't have to be strong all the time. In fact, it's when you are weak that God is most powerful. When you have given everything, tried all you can, and have nothing left to give, that's often when God begins. Imagine for a moment a person weighed down by burdens they can no longer carry. Maybe it's the expectations of others, the weight of their own mistakes, heartbreak, or fear. Their legs grow weary, their spirit bends under pressure, and finally, they can walk no further. In the quietness of that moment, they fall to their knees. The world may judge this as failure or defeat, but in reality, it is the beginning of something far greater. In that humble posture, kneeling, perhaps with tears of exhaustion or frustration, there is a sacred admission. I can't do this anymore. Vulnerability is revealed. Pride is stripped away. Facades crumble, replaced with raw honesty. And then, when all seems lost, a shift occurs. In that stillness, a light begins to burst forth, not from within ourselves, but from the very presence of Jesus, who meets us in our lowest places. Jesus does not stand distant, waiting for us to piece ourselves back together. He kneels with us. He reaches out, taking hold of us with arms of strength and compassion. Where our strength fails, His takes over. Where our hope is gone, His hope pours in. And as He lifts us up, not just physically, but spiritually and emotionally, we begin to sense a force greater than anything we can muster on our own. Consider the stories throughout Scripture. We see time and again how God chooses the most unlikely, the weak, the overlooked to display His marvelous power. Moses, tongue-tied and afraid, is called to deliver his people from slavery. David, the youngest and least of his brothers, defeats a giant with nothing but a slingshot and faith. Gideon, hiding in fear, is addressed by God as a mighty warrior and goes on to lead a small band of men to victory. Even Jesus Himself entered our world in poverty and humility. Why does God operate this way? It's because, in our weakness, there is no illusion of self-sufficiency. When we have reached the end of ourselves, we make space for Him to do what only He can do. It's easy to crave strength by the world's standards. We want to be in control, to solve our problems independently, to be admired and never need help. But true power, the kind that transforms a life and echoes in eternity, comes when we lean fully into God's grace. His grace, He says, is sufficient. Not just barely enough, but more than enough. His grace fills up our empty places, meets us in our pain, and gives us new joy and hope. When Paul wrote these words in 2 Corinthians, he was burdened by what he called a thorn in the flesh, an ongoing struggle that he pleaded with God to take away. But God's answer was not one of instant removal or human empowerment. Instead, it was a promise. My grace is sufficient for you. Paul came to realize that his weakness was not a liability, but a vessel for God's strength. So then, Paul reflects, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. This is upside-down logic to a world obsessed with appearing capable and unfazed. Yet, it is in this paradox that we find deep, unshakable peace. We are invited to find rest, not in our bravado, but in the sufficiency of Christ. Maybe you or someone you love are going through a time right now that feels overwhelming. Perhaps your prayers feel unanswered, your energy spent, your heart battered by disappointment or loss. Perhaps you have nothing left. Even hope is hanging by a thread. But this is not the end. This is where God's work begins. You see, when we surrender, when we finally let go of the weight and lay it at the feet of Jesus, we make room for a miracle. His love lifts us up, steadying our trembling frame. His presence becomes a light that breaks through the darkest nights. In Him, failure does not have the last word. Weakness, rather than being a lifelong curse, is transformed into a holy invitation. Strength in weakness means that you're never truly alone. Every teardrop, every sigh, every moment you feel like giving up is seen and held by the God who loves you, who calls you precious, who promises never to leave or forsake you. And just as Jesus knelt beside the fallen, the hurting, the marginalized during His earthly ministry, He kneels beside you now. He reaches for you, not with condemnation, but with compassion. He lifts you, not because of your innate worthiness, but because of His immeasurable love for you. The process isn't always immediate, and it isn't always comfortable. But step by step, He empowers you to stand again, renewed, not by your own might, but by His. What does this mean in the ordinary moments of your life? It means you are free from the pressure to always be perfect, to keep up appearances, or to bear your burdens alone. In admitting your weakness, you unlock a flow of grace and divine strength that can carry you through anything. The next time you feel you can't go on, when you're brought to your knees by grief, by exhaustion, by heartbreak or confusion, remember, this is sacred ground. God is at work. In your limitations, He reveals His limitlessness. In your emptiness, He pours out fullness. And the very struggle you wish would disappear may become the stage on which His glory shines brightest. So lean in, just as you are. Trade your striving for surrender, your fear for faith, your despair for expectation. Let yourself be lifted, not by fleeting human effort, but by the everlasting arms of Jesus, who delights to show His power in and through your weakness. For in the greatest trials, the deepest valleys, the most crushing moments, His grace is more than sufficient. You are never abandoned, you are never defeated. For when you are weak, then you are truly strong, for God's power is perfected in your surrender. And in your story, God's strength becomes a beacon of hope and light, bursting forth even in the darkest of nights.